Well, my international relations classes in the University of Minnesota had a major track in international peace, conflict, and security. In linguistics, I also took up psycholinguistics, and in my later years, which I can turn into a PhD, neuro-linguistic programming. So why is this important? Because words are important. Words can sometimes sink an entire country, and that's what's been happening now. Some of our OFWs have been calling us and sending us messages saying that the misrepresentation of the country's peace and order situation has led to harassment. In fact, some OFWs, and I've counted at least 3 cases, of an OFW just riding a bus. Once she has declared that she's Filipino, they shout at her saying, "Your president is a murderer." To the point that they have been asked to get off buses, off trains, that some of their walking around on a Sunday during their days off can become a nightmare for people who just want to say, "My country is okay. I support my president. We're okay." But that's not what happens. When the term 13,000 extrajudicial killings gets bandied about, that automatically already puts our country on notice and our OFWs in danger. So a lot of people have not thought about it that way. And this is the value of fake news, or the danger, the consequent danger. So today we'll be talking about fake news, false news, and propaganda. So, next please. The social media and the battle for online credibility. Still with me? You okay? So you're all on social media, most of you, right? How many have Facebook accounts? None? No, well, I mean, how many of you have Facebook accounts? Everybody has Facebook?
Yes.
Twitter?
Yes.
Wow, really? Tumblr?
Yes.
Okay, beyond that, Instagram?
Yes.
Okay, so social media. Ako nga, it turns out that Waze is also social media. And I'm blown away by that idea. So, social media, I don't need to explain what that is. But the battle that is ongoing right now is the battle for who controls the information that you read on social media. Or even more, the information that you will believe. Because not everything, as we already know, is true on social media. Not everything online is real. Next. So what is fake news? Gosh, this is so small, sorry. Okay. It says here that the journalist's obligation is to tell the truth. Do we agree with this?
Yes.
Why? Didn't I just tell you that not everything you see or hear is real? So what makes you think that the journalist is telling you the truth? You're counting on what? On the fact that they're journalists? So think about that for a while. Journalists have never been very clear about what they meant about being truthful. Years ago, when journalism was a fledgling profession in the United States, there was a lot of the same controversies that we're going through right now. There were no rules on libel. There was no recognition of what constitutes a public figure. There was nothing. You can call anybody anything, and there were no laws to prevent you from doing that. It, of course, resulted in a lot of violence, both against journalists and against the people they attacked. So as the profession evolved, they decided to put in better standards. What would constitute printable material? What would constitute material that people could be allowed to read? In the early days, there was censorship, and it was perfectly acceptable. Why? Because they were policing a profession that had largely grown wild, because there were no restrictions. So the result was, or rather more draconian measures against it. Those measures we don't agree with now in postmodern society. It's too wordy. They could have just chosen any one of those expression, speech, or of the press, and it would have meant exactly the same thing. But, wala yan, dandan nila. So they put in all three. Nevertheless, so when journalists are under fire, the first thing they say, violation of the freedom of speech. And in fact, in the recent controversy regarding accreditation of bloggers and regarding whether or not bloggers can be allowed to cover the Malacanang press briefings, one of the and when Asek Mocha Uson questioned the credentials of Rappler for it to be covering the Malacanang press beat under the Malacanang press corps instead of under the social media office which she heads, the first thing they said is that you're trying to suppress our freedom of speech, which is wrong. The freedom to cover any of the palace activities or any of government activities doesn't lie in the freedom of speech. It lies in the right to information. And the right to information can be policed and can be limited by matters relating to national security and diplomacy and a whole lot of other things, including confidential conferences, conversations between the president, etc. All of these are not subject to the freedom of information. Yet, the journalist will tell you all the time, every time something comes up relating to their profession, they'll say, you're trying to suppress my freedom of speech. A few years back, somebody said, maybe journalists should take a board exam. And the first thing they did is, no, you can't do that. You're oppressing our freedom of speech. Really? Yet, when Malacanang blogger accreditation came up, the first opposition they made was, what? Bloggers can be high school dropouts. We have to finish journalism degrees. Really? So how is the freedom of speech now related to bloggers? How is the freedom of speech applicable to journalists and not to bloggers? In fact, the United Nations has been petitioned to recognize bloggers as at par or equal and no different from journalists. That's how it goes. Next, the other side. Fake news means news articles that are intentionally and verifiably false and that may mislead the reader. So the keyword, number one keyword is intentional. If you make an honest mistake, it's not intentional. But honest mistakes can be proven if, one, there's an apology. Oops, sorry, I made a mistake. This is what happened. Okay. Or you take it down. Same thing. And the second word is news. So if I make a mistake about the number of children so-and-so has, it's not fake news. Why is the word intentionally important? Because there is an intention to mislead, an intention to bring you somewhere you don't know you're going. Next. Yeah. So, Asek Mocha has been the object of not just ridicule but actual hate. Because people think that she publishes fake news. But let's look at the first, one of the most controversial ones. She published this. She said, let's pray for our army, panalangin natin na ang pamilyang naiwan at nababahala sa kalagayan ng kanilang asawa at tatay. And then she put in this photograph. And the photograph is not of the Philippine army but of the Honduras army. Okay, take note. Nothing in what she posted says that this is the Philippine army. Okay? Nothing in what she posted says that this was even original. In fact, if you look over here, it says she shared Cinemotion Digital Films photo. And Cinemotion is part of the Philippine government. It works with PCOO. Okay? Next. When her attention was called to this, she immediately deleted it. Now, is this fake news under our definition? Yes or no? No. Why? One, it was not intentional. Two, it's not even news. This was a post asking people to pray for the army. She didn't even say what army. But this was the subject of a Senate investigation. This was brought up at a Senate investigation. And the opposition senators kept saying, why did you post that? And she explained. In spite of this explanation, people still say fake news si Mocha because she posted this. Now tell me, what other things did she post that were fake? Very few people can come up with it. When people post on Facebook, fake news yan si Mocha, I ask, What did she post that was fake? If it was the Honduras photograph, that has been explained in no less than the Senate hearing. Now, what else did she post that was fake news? And most of the time, I get no answers. This, again, fake news Simoka is yet another example of fake news. Diba? You find it funny? She's going to law school. That's not fake and that's not news. But she's going to law school. So that's kind of scary for some people. Next. Yes! Next. Now, we're not here to cheer her on. We're just telling you what's going on. Next. Now here, look at this one. The Inquirer, no less. Put here, raiders discovered drug queen's daughter being guarded by Special Action Force, which is the elite PNP brigade. These are the best of the best among the PNP. And PSG, which is Presidential Security. Okay? Take note of the timestamp, 6 p.m. I'm friends with this reporter. And nothing in the article later on indicates the source of this news, that she, the drug queen's daughter, was being guarded by the SAF or by the PSG. Nothing. She didn't say who told her that. She didn't say where in the records the SAF or the PSG was guarding her, or the names of the people allegedly guarding the drug queen's daughter. Nothing. She didn't even say how many. Next. She posted an update later on saying, convicted drug queen's daughter has security detail enjoyed by VIPs. Do you see the difference? At first, the accusation is clear. Special Action Force is the PNP's elite team. The PSG is the president's own guards. If they're guarding a member of a drug syndicate, this has serious repercussions, not just on the drug war, but on the corruptibility of the Philippine president. Could you have the second picture? But take note also, the timestamp is still 6 p.m. No time on the update. Okay? And what it doesn't include in here is that security detail provided to VIPs is a valid member of the police force. The police force has a unit dedicated to providing high-profile persons with security detail during times when they are under threat. So this was not just normal, this is legal. Yet, the way it has been portrayed makes it look like a crime has been committed. Now, is this fake news? Next. Diba? False news. Now, this is a lot more serious. What is false news? It's a crime punishable under the revised penal code called unlawful publications or unlawful utterances. And when we say a crime, it means you can go to jail for it. Next. Unlawful publications, next, means the penalty has been raised, by the way, from 200 to 1,000 pesos. Arresto mayor is about 6 years. Okay? So we're talking about 6 years in jail, huh? The fine of 200 to 1,000 pesos has been increased to 40,000 to 200,000 pesos. It punishes any person who, by means of printing, etc., any other means of publication, caused to be published as news. Okay? Take note, as news, any false news, which may endanger the public order, cause damage to the interest or credit of the state. So that's why it's serious. Arresto mayor is a pretty high penalty. Next. Unlawful utterances. Any person who by the same means, or by words or utterances or speeches, shall encourage disobedience to the law or to the constituted authorities, or praise or justify or extol any act punishable by law. Other than this, if you also encourage people to not implement the law or to utter what we call scurrilous libels, which is libel that's worse, against any duly constituted authority, that is inciting to sedition. And that is punishable by up to 12 years. 12 to 20. Next. Remember this one? Philippine Star said, spreading fake news is now a crime. Turns out, it's not true. RA 10951 was signed into law, but they said that false news under Article 154 is now punishable as a crime. That's not true. It's been punishable since 1930. But what the law did was to increase the penalties from 40,000 from 200 to 1,000 pesos to 40,000 to 200,000 pesos. And this was not the doing of President Duterte as it seems to imply. But the bill, the law, was sponsored by Senator Drilon of the Liberal Party. Next. In other words, false news was false news. Next. So here are the elements. You publish news as false news, which may endanger the public order or may cause damage to the interest or credit of the state. Why is this important? Because there doesn't have to be actual damage. If it tends to cause damage to the state, then it should be punishable. Then it will be punishable. Next. Extrajudicial killings. Let's go back to that. 13,000 is the operative number right now. PNP sources indicate that only about 3,000 to 4,000 were killed during drug operations. Where did they get 13,000? Did you believe 13,000? Do you believe there's blood on the streets? Now tell me, why do you believe that in the absence of a state policy? And why do you believe that in the absence of any other bodies? You see pictures every day, yes. But do those pictures amount to 13,000? And are those 13,000 killed pursuant to a government policy? Because only that government policy will change a homicide into an extrajudicial killing. Maria Ressa, in a speech in accepting a CNN award, admits that Rappler does not rely on PNP statistics. She said this in her speech. But she did not indicate where the Rappler gets its statistics. And Rappler reiterates 13,000. And sometimes uses the number 17,000. If you want to talk about the number of homicides during the Aquino administration, understand this. In the 6 years that Aquino was president, there were 77,000 homicides. We're not even halfway there. We're not even a quarter of the way there. In fact, in the first year of the Aquino presidency, 13,000 dead. In the first year of the Duterte administration, 7,000. The BBC reiterates the EJK statistics, citing Rappler. Freedom House, which is supposed to be a human rights watchdog, includes Rappler's articles as proof that there are extrajudicial killings. So what's happening now? The number 13,000 is being reiterated over the course of the world. And that affects our OFWs abroad. Vice President Lenny Robredo claimed there was palit-ulo. She did not indicate any evidence to that. And 1 month later, the DOT said there were cancellations, a lot of cancellations, from European-based tourists. They decided to go to Bali. So what does that mean? It means there is now danger or possible damage to the national interest, to the national credit, because we do have grants coming in from EU. This is what spurred the problem with European grants. Next. How are you doing? Okay, Pat? Let me know if you need to ask a question. What is propaganda? Now, propaganda has an even more negative connotation. But this is a negative connotation that's been around for years. Propaganda is biased or misleading in nature, used to promote or publicize a particular political cause or point of view. So it must be political in nature. It is used by governments. It's information not necessarily objective, used to influence an audience or further an agenda. Okay? Normally, it is used by governments in times when the national security is threatened. In other words, your government, any government, be it the United States government, Russia, the Philippines, China, Japan, anywhere. The government can lie to its people. It's one of those things that the government can do to protect you. World War II. Propaganda was essential in wartime to demoralize the enemy. Why? And is also relied on to maintain the peace. Why is this? Because let's face it, information or misinformation is a tool. And during wartime, it is a weapon. Next. Journalism and fake news. So let's go back to that question. Why do you think journalists tell the truth? You saw that Inquirer article. That's just one example. Next. Are they objective? Well, now you say no. But if I asked you that about 30 minutes earlier, what would you have said? Do you think that all journalists are objective? There may be some that are. But there's no such thing as objectivity in media or social media. Social media at least doesn't pretend to be objective. Next. Look at this. GMA says, walang kinikilingan. Inquirer says, balanced news. The marketing strategy for traditional media, mainstream media, has always been that they're fair, they're balanced, they're objective. We bring you the facts, nothing else. That's not true. News media, Phil Elefante of the Philippines graphic says that all news is biased. Next. May isa pa yan. Why are all news biased? How can you tell they're biased? Why do we say that? Because even in things like what questions they ask, who they interview, the photographs they will present to you, they all adhere to a particular what we call editorial policy. Now the most blatant examples of this are two major newspapers, the Inquirer and the Daily Tribune. The Daily Tribune at least is honest, they'll state aside and they will take it. But the Inquirer is a little more insidious. They will tell you they have balanced news. But in the case cited earlier, did they give us balanced news? Even the corrected version of the news article presented to you an opinion of the publishers. And this is reflective of what we call editorial policy. Do you need a break? Kaya pa? Kaya pa? Or, do you need questions? Do you need to ask a question? Okay, examples of how they do it. Next. Journalism has a complicated relationship with the truth. Objectivity is a myth. There is always social, cultural, and political perspective. This is for an article on photojournalism. This can lead to, and from a philosophical point of view, you can argue that reality is a narrative. The result is that reality becomes endlessly fictile and malleable. What's that? It means that suddenly the adage, the truth is relative, is very, very real. Kasi you hear terms like post-truth. Diba? So, fact-based representation distinguishes journalism from other reporting, supposedly. But in these times that we live in, how many of our mainstream media is well and truly fact-based? Now let's look at what happens. Look at this picture. VP Lenny, Bongbong's witnesses are not registered voters. This is Action Balita. Look at the pictures that they chose. Who looks better? Who has a better expression? Who looks guilty? Diba? They show him looking embarrassed. They show Lenny Robredo looking smug. In the meantime, positioning. Tignan nyo, Lagman Belittle Soroke, Coco Puzzle, dismay, nation on the brink, massacres, impunity, looming martial rule. Look at this. Martial rule, and then a picture of Bongbong Marcos. What does that say to you? It reiterates the supposed historical fact that the Marcoses were dictators, there was martial law, and it reiterates the evil daw that is martial law. We can discuss why it is an evil later on. if you want to, but that is how they do it. Next. Questions or lack thereof. This is the article in Rappler. These are the pictures that they showed. Notice now that they don't look exactly that good later on, but look at Lenny Robredo over there. Next. Nakatayo siya, she's speaking to the audience, etc. Now look at the article over here on the right side. The article is about the Vice President, and they do not get the side of Uson or Nieto. Everything in this article is just what Lenny says, portraying what she says as though it were true. There is nothing to balance the view of Lenny Robredo here. There is nothing to indicate that any research has been made as to the truth of her statements. It just reproduces what she says, basically, and the factual circumstances around it. Next. Again, and this one is a little bit more controversial. Ray Joseph Nieto, I don't know if you know this guy. Do you know this guy? Do you know Thinking Pinoy? Okay. Well, he has a 1 million following on Facebook. Ray Joseph Nieto is also a host on Carambola in DWIZ, 8 to 10 in the morning. Matter of disclosure, I'm one of the co-hosts. Okay? So this is what happened. Kaya pa ba? Is this too long for you? Matatapos na to, promise. I understand this might trigger a lot of discussions. Ray Joseph Nieto, Thinking Pinoy. Okay? Secretary Harry Roque, very newly minted spokesperson of the President. Okay? When he was interviewed by Mocha Uson, Asek Mocha Uson, he was talking as though, ang mambabato sa akin, taputan ko ng hollow blocks. Remember this? Did you hear about this one? Sabi niya, tapunan daw niya ng hollow blocks. So he was interviewed on Carambola by Ray Joseph Nieto. He said, sa akin naman po, ganyan ang lahat ng press briefing natin, etc., etc. So hanggat kaya ko pong bigyan ng kasagutan, etc. Nieto says, pero sir, kahit sana isang hollow block, mabalibag naman ninyo. What does Secretary Roque say? He says, pero dapat piliin din yung target. Take note, it was Secretary Roque who initially said that he was going to throw hollow blocks. Nieto says, sir, kasi kung ako, si Pia Ranyada na lang, of Rappler. Okay? The whole context of this was a joke. What happens next is that Pia Ranyada calls him out and says, I'm calling out Nieto for threatening her daw. Nahahagisan siya ng hollow block. Now, on the face of that conversation, nobody's going to believe about that hollow block there. Nevertheless, Ranyada, and the case is ongoing, filed a complaint to the KBP. Next. What are the kinds of fake news? Fake news is one deliberately misleading, clickbait, satire, and one more. Propaganda. Okay. We've talked about propaganda. Deliberately misleading is kind of fake news, but clickbait is when they put in a blurb or a supposed headline, but the body is not the same. Okay, I'm sure you know what clickbait is. And satire sites are also sometimes referred to as fake news. Next. The whole idea of journalism or even bloggers is the right to information under the Philippine Constitution, which states that the right to people of information on matters of public concern shall be recognized. Access to official records, etc., shall not be denied. Now, this is a right enshrined in the Constitution, which means that there are only some things that can be denied to you if you need information. And there are guidelines under the FOI executive order issued by the President. But the fact is that there is still no law on our freedom of information. It's a right, it's supposed to be self-executing, but there are no rules, except for the rule that this President has put in to compel members of the executive to give information to the public upon request, subject to certain restrictions. Next. So why is the issue of fake news so important? Because, as it has shown, of the possibility that it can win an election. It can depose presidents. Because right now, the challenge is on the Aquino heirs to show that the narrative of 1986 is still real. Diba? As far as we know, we deposed the dictator in 1986. And so many already declared Ninoy a hero after that, but there are rules to declaring heroes. Did you know that? There are rules to declaring heroes. How many years do you have to wait before you can discuss declaring somebody a hero? Do you know? Rule of thumb among historians is 50 years. But immediately after Cory Aquino became president, a mere 3 years after the death of Ninoy Aquino, Ninoy was already being hailed a hero. In the end, it's about money or influence or power. Because the ability to control how you think, the ability to control how you are going to decide is the ultimate power. It can control how you decide in the next elections. It can control how you're going to decide on whether or not you're going to join an uprising. It also decides what product you're going to use, what station you're going to watch, which sites you're going to click. The freedom of information, or the issue of fake news is an issue of making certain sites or people credible or not credible, so that your decisions will be affected. So there is a war going on. The war isn't with guns. The war is over what you click. And on Facebook, it's who you like or follow. Because these translate into real power. Why are people afraid of Mocha Uson? They're not afraid of her, they're afraid of the 5 million followers. And you know, it's not that easy to get 5 million followers. Okay, questions? Wala. Angry manifestations. Objections? Come on, exercise your freedom of speech. Or your right to information. Yeah. You don't have to agree, but you can agree. You know how insidious Facebook is? That algorithm, there's some people I know who are not out of the closet, but are starting to see gay sites. It means that the Facebook algorithm is so good that it can tell that you're gay even if you haven't outed yourself. That's how insidious Facebook is. That's how insidious social media can be. Can you imagine being able to use that information? No questions? La? Seriously, is there anything you want to ask? Yes, sir. I understand you're a campus journalist.
No, from Students' Party for Equality and Advancement of Knowledge. I do agree na pwedeng ipaghiwalay natin yung opinion and news. But I would like to clarify kung tama yung kuha ko na pag yung opinion mo ay lumabas sa media dahil may kinalaman to sa ating mamamayan ay nagiging news, right?
Not necessarily. First of all, how would you define news?
Yeah, kaya kasi pagka yung opinion mo lumabas na sa TV, so can we say it na yun ay isang balita?
There's a qualifying statement there on matters of public concern.
Like for example, lahat ng mga opinions ni Asik Moca and lahat ng opinions ng Presidente, dahil sila ay public officers, ay pwedeng lumalabas sa balita at ito ay kinoconsider natin as news, right?
Possibly, yes.
Yes,
It will
okay.
depend.
Can we say now na, kasi syempre, nagsasalita si President Duterte
Yes.
and public officials, kaya nga ba, isang public official natin na nagsabi na state of mind lang daw yung traffic, kaya naging balita din siya, right?
Facebook movement yan, sorry. Okay, continue.
So, halimbawa, can we consider that our President is also one who is spreading fake news when he made the promises during the elections that he will end contractualization, that he will end poverty, but until now, nandiyan pa rin yung contractualization is sad. Kasi balita siya at may kinalaman niya sa mga pamayan.
Well, you can consider that fake news or you can consider it propaganda. It isn't news. It's a promise. The news will be when somebody else reports on him. Diba? Not when he does. Because you're saying that it's news because he's the public figure. Therefore, it is news if somebody reports on what he said. But it could be considered propaganda. Diba? To further a particular political agenda. And in that case, winning elections.
Yeah, it's napag-iwalay natin. Like for example, when he said that there are no extrajudicial killings, but there are evidences that shows, no, even the CCTVs cannot lie, na meron talagang namatay na katulad namin kabataan, and just sasabihin natin walang namatay.
Ay, hindi. He didn't say walang namatay. Because,
or walang extrajudicial killings.
Okay, what is the definition of extrajudicial killings? Do you remember? First, it has to be a death. Right? And second, it must be pursuant to state policy. So where's the evidence of state policy? State policy can be evident through two things. One, a stated policy means there's an order, a decree, etc. that says that you have to kill. Or there's a presumption of EJK when, and you're right on this one, it is an agent of the state, who are agents of the state. Law enforcement are agents of the state. So yes, I agree that there is evidence on extrajudicial killings, but evidence of extrajudicial killings does not ipso facto equate to the fact of extrajudicial killings. Okay? Why? Because it becomes fact only after a judicial determination. So, actually, I can say there are no extrajudicial killings until somebody has been convicted of that. Or, we can say that there are presumed extrajudicial killings either because there are state actors, police are state actors. And I agree with you that there is evidence of extrajudicial killings. Let's not lie to ourselves. Okay? Yes, there's evidence of extrajudicial killings. My worry about the information wars is that everybody says may extrajudicial killings, but it was only now that the case has actually been filed before the Supreme Court. Why is that? Why doesn't anybody want to prove the fact of extrajudicial killings? Because it's scary. Because the numbers might actually not be 13,000. Because the numbers might not even be 3. And there goes your information that you need as a weapon. Guys, you can object to what I say. You're allowed to. Ano ba? Freedom of information and freedom of speech. That's the whole point in this. You can object. You can challenge. Go.
How can we prove it now na yung Caloocan police nasunod daw yung mga evidences
Did you read the arson law? Did you read the arson law? Or do you read the rules on evidence? If you're in the custody of evidence and it allegedly disappears, it's taken against you. It's taken against them. Doesn't mean the case is dead. That is in fact evidence against them. We might have difficulty in the criminal aspect, but certainly not the administrative or the civil aspect. We can still go after them. And I think that we should go after them. If you know of an extrajudicial killing, for crying out loud, sue them. File a case. Demand for the investigation of state agents who kill citizens. When I was practicing, that's what I used to do a lot. I would either defend cops or sue them. Depends on what they did. If there are extrajudicial killings, it's not enough for you to speak out against them. We have to make those people accountable. But as long as we don't do this, as long as we're just becoming pawns to somebody's political agenda where extrajudicial killings in the number 13,000 works, then we're no better. You're allowing the killings to happen so that somebody else will win. Yes?
Ano lang po, gusto ko lang po malaman ano yung pagtingin nyo dun sa isang study na lumabas, conducted by University of Oxford, saying that President Duterte hired trolls
As interviewed by the
during
BBC
the
na
2016 elections.
Yes.
So, dun po muna sa sa first question.
Do you know who they cited? Rappler. How convincing will that be?
No, the study titled Troops, Trolls, and Troublemakers, a Global Inventory
I read the study.
Actually, may pinakita ng mga algorithm showing that there is, and Duterte also admitted that they hired.
During the campaign.
Yeah, they didn't call it trolls back then. But
Big kabunado around that, yeah.
Okay,
$200,000 US.
so what can you say about it po?
Does it say that Marlo has also hired call centers?
No. Doon po muna tayo sa question na...
Let's balance it out.
kasi-
You're citing the Oxford study, right?
Oh, and in particular lang po doon sa... Kasi President Duterte admitted that they hired.
Of course. It's
So,
election. Makikiupo ako, ha?
okay po.
Of course. And yeah, I wouldn't object to that. Of course he hired, but he didn't hire trolls. He hired online media people. And if you ask me, who didn't?
So,
They all did.
okay po. So,
Elections yan, ha?
So, admitting that Duterte really hired, we won't call it trolls, okay? So, let's call it cyber warriors, okay?
Let's call them keyboard propaganda.
Okay. So, you admitted na yes, they hired trolls. So, sa Facebook...
I didn't say trolls. You said
No. I'm sorry. Hindi nga natin tatawagin trolls. So, admitting na nag-hire nga po ng mga... Paano ba natin? Keyboard warriors.
No, I disagree with that term. Try something else.
Okay. So, whatever we call yung mga hinire na yun. So, admitting po na talagang may mga hinire, therefore, they are affecting, not only affecting, they are peddling information that are sometimes, okay, misleading, and it affects the algorithm in
Correct.
Facebook.
Yes.
Halimbawa po, Mocha Uson uses Facebook as a platform to air her opinions regarding state policies and whatnot.
Yes.
And then, makikita natin doon sa comment sections that sometimes, napaka-misleading ng mga information. Even the post of Mocha Uson herself, napaka-misleading.
Which one?
So halimbawa, bibigyan ko kayo ng example, yung isa na pinost ni Mocha Uson na na-rape daw, na picture na babae, na batang babae.
Yes, from the Central America.
Yeah.
Did she take it down?
Yeah, I think so.
Did she apologize? Let's make that part of your narrative
Will,
of facts.
no.
Yes, she did. Let's make that part of
But
the
the point
narrative.
is, the point is, she posted, and she did post a misleading article.
You know, she wasn't the only one who posted. Peter Chu Lavinia did so.
Yeah. The point is, we're talking about Mocha Uson. And,
Go.
Okay. So, ang tanong po dito, in connection po doon po sa diniscuss nyo kanina.
Hey guys.
Sa diniscuss nyo kanina about propaganda,
Yes.
etc. And its connection doon sa algorithm. Masasabi nyo po ba na those who were hired during the election period, and we don't know if it persisted even after the election period.
By saying that, you're saying you believe that.
So, masasabi po ba natin na these people is biased towards the state interests of Duterte and his allies? And if so, even though na hindi natin ma-verify if the information na pinapeddle nila ay totoo o hindi, Therefore, liable din si President Duterte or his communications team doon sa pagpepedel ng misleading information because it affects the algorithm. And you can see it sa engagement and reach ng Mokauson Facebook fan page. Doon siya nagka-capitalize sa ano na yun, sa base na yun ng mga engagement sa social media. So yun lang po
Your
yun.
premise began with the elections. Diba? And you indicated that you do not know if that continues to this day. So let's take that out of the equation. During elections, of course, people hired what we call social media influencers. Heard of the term?
Yes.
Social media influencers. Marloas had the biggest. And he had an entire call center. So, diba? Oh, laki pa ng bayad. 20,000 a month. Part-time. So if your basis is pre-elections, what happens to your conclusion now?
No. Ang pinupoint out natin, kung sa pre-elections pa lang, meron ng practice ng ganon. Therefore, merong possibility and probability na it continued even after the elections.
Actually, I agree with you. Didn't we talk about propaganda? What does propaganda do? It's a weapon. It's a tool for the state to protect itself. And there is no state that doesn't do that. Why? Without the state, how are you going to enforce the rights you feel that you're entitled to? Do you know the Bill of Rights in the Constitution? Have you read it? Article 3, etc. What is that? Does it give you your rights?
Feeling?
Doesn't give you rights, it recognizes them. But everything that is stated in the Bill of Rights are prescriptions against the state. Diba? It tells us what the state cannot do with us. And nothing in that indicates that the state cannot protect itself. It's one of the most basic principles of having one. Without the state, who is going to enforce your rights? Without the state, how are you going to even exist within what we call your territorial jurisdiction? How is anybody going to exist in anarchy? Is propaganda a weapon? Of course it's a weapon. In not only propaganda, but intelligence services. Gathering data about you. These things are done by the state. You can protect yourself by getting a writ of amparo. But it's your call to protect yourself. Diba? In 2003, and 2006 and 2007, I was representing military mutineers. Some of them you might know, not Trillanes, Paeldon, Aquino of the NFA now, etc. And during that time, things were written about me that are patently false. Information was coming into my clients, etc., and all of that. False information. Information intended to discredit me. Why? Intel services were coming after me because I was winning. And eventually I won all of those cases. This was the state protecting itself. Why do you think things like rebellion, sedition, rebellion/insurrection, coup d'etat, etc. are punishable as crimes? It's the state protecting itself. Consequently, however, you have rights. Okay? It doesn't mean that the state is untrammeled in its use of propaganda. Don't let that happen. If you feel that there is government propaganda and it is misleading you, how do you fight misinformation? With more information. Diba? That's why, how do you fight fake news? With more information. You're going to have to check it yourself. The problem with your premise is not, it's your right. It is the state protecting itself.
In conclusion lang po, since na-explain nyo na rin naman po, we can say that even in the beginning, President Duterte is an accessory to the crime of peddling false information. And then therefore, the people cannot trust whatever they are saying. Kasi nga po, doon nga po sa premise din na sinabi niyo po. So yun lang po siguro, malinaw naman po.
So allow me to object to your conclusion. First of all, where is the false news? Can you name me what the false news was? A promise is not false news. The news is Duterte saying that. That he did not fulfill his promise, of course you can call him out on it. Why the hell not? He promised, you want him to deliver, ask him to deliver. But that is not false news. False news is if somebody wrote about him and said, Duterte promised within 2017 he'd have achieved all of these. Now that would be false news. And if that false news affected the credit of the state or the interest of the state or even national security, then it would be punishable under unlawful publications or unlawful utterances. But in this case, the utterance made by the President was not unlawful. Next. Yes po. Yes, ma'am. Can somebody hand up? Diba? Can we have ladies first?
Di ba sabi niyo po, yung fake news, dati pa siya in the 19th year. So, bakit ngayon na tinaas na yung fine, may nahuli na po ba na mga tao na, sinasabi niyo nga, in this world, na maraming na nag-spread ng fake news, may nahuli na po ba or napanagot doon?
Hindi ba? Not under the, well, before. Kasi the law is 1930s. So meron cases before, but under the Duterte administration na lang.
So ano po ba dapat yung para mapanagot yung mga tao na nag-spread ng fake news ngayon?
And this is where you can help. File a case. Remember, it's a criminal case, ha? So walang filing fee yan. At maraming pro bono lawyers. File a case.
So,
It doesn't matter which side, ha? File against any side.
So, yung act po dito para matapos or para malabanan yung fake news is galing din po sa amin na nakakabasa din po nung mga yon.
Yes. So go ahead, I encourage you to file a case.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Ma'am, I just heard a while ago that you said na dapat yung masasabi natin fake news yung isang news kung yung sinabi pertaining to Duterte's kung ano yung mga sinasabi ni Duterte. Di ba sabi niyo po nung una, pag sinabi niya yung may time span. So, masasabi po ba nating fake news yung sinabi ni Duterte na 3 to 6 months, lilipunin ko yung droga sa Pilipinas?
For it to be fake news, it has to be news.
Sinabi niya nga po yun.
News ba siya?
Yes.
News pag ni-report siya.
Ni-report po siya.
O, yung nag-report. Oh. In fact, yung nag-report, hindi siya ma-fake news. You can accuse the president of lying. But don't use the term fake news. Okay? May difference yun. Tell him he lied if you want to tell him he lied. Okay? That's why I ask you to oppose me. Don't let what I say be untested. Ask questions. That's why I'm also asking you, if you think that a crime has been committed, whether it's committed by this administration or by private persons, file a case. You think it's fake news? Let's see you get past preliminary investigation on that one. But you can't tell the president that he lied. There's nothing wrong with that. Or, remember, what is the qualification? Even assuming it's news, ha? Sinasabi mo news, sinabi ng presidente. Was it intentional? That's something you have to prove. It's possible that at the time that he made the promise, he truly believed that he could accomplish it. And then nakaupo na siya sa pagka-presidente, a lot harder than I thought. Does it become intentional when it's that? Ma'am, I saw somebody raising her hand here. Yes, ma'am.
Good afternoon po, ma'am. Kung ano po, di ba po
Guys,
sa...
pakinggan please.
Di ba po ngayon sa social media, we tend to find fake news. Paano po, kunyari po, nakakita ko ng isang site na, kunyari GMA or ABS, paano ko po ma-assure na, uy, credible tong balitang to?
You have to check. Okay, sometimes... Diba? How do you fight fake news? Fake news is misinformation with quantifiers. Okay na? How do you used to fight fake news when it came out in mainstream? How do you do that when it's mainstream media? The same will hold true for social media. Kasi parang tinitignan ninyo, pag may nakita akong fake news dito sa social media, anong gagawin natin? Why? What would you have done when it was mainstream? Do you think that things have changed? More information. But there are earmarks. Okay, hey guys, are you interested in the answer? Okay, there are earmarks. Online media is fast. Okay, so online media, dahil sa bilis ng developments, minsan may magre-report, kulang pa yung facts. Pero nagmamadali i-report na. Mainstream is a lot slower. That's why they have the benefit of time. They have time to make other interviews, to ask other people, to fact check. Diba? They have the time to make analysis later on. Although we have them in social media. Pero, pag developing news, diba, you don't have the time for other views, for other matters. You can just say, ganito ang nangyayari. Diba? For example, somebody makes a statement. You don't present what that person said as gospel truth. Like the president. Okay? You don't say that it's true. You have to check. That's what mainstream media does. That's why they claim that they're more balanced, that's why they're more credible, etc. Because instead of posting it right away or publishing what that person said right away, they will ask other people. Okay? So sometimes, sa social media, since developing yung story, lalabas ng lalabas yan. As things change, may lalabas. Minsan ipupull out dahil hindi na tama. For example, yung sunog sa Resorts World. The first reaction was, it's a terrorist attack. So some people were already speculating online. Other people needed more information. So hindi pa sila nagpo-post, hindi pa sila nagpa-publish. So dati, yun yung difference between online and mainstream media. Because may online media na rin yung mainstream, nawawala na yung distinction na yun. Okay. But in the end, when there's something false, how do you disprove it? That's what your academic training is about, di ba? When you make a thesis, when you have a thesis statement, what do? You present evidence supporting that statement, and then you look for evidence that opposes it. Usually, pag merong balita lumabas sa social media, single site lang, you already know there's a big possibility na fake news yun. Di ba yung mga celebrities sinasabi, ay patay na pala ako? Diba? The news of my death has been greatly exaggerated. Usually, isa lang ang nag-post. Tingin ka dun sa ibang sites, walang ibang nagpo-post. Hold off ka muna maniwala. So those are one of the earmarks. 2, the site. Kung fake news site yan, di ba, magtatanong ka. Etc. Checking. In the end, the responsibility lies with us, which is sad. Dati kasi, when we could trust journalism and trust mainstream media, nagbabago ang mundo eh. Dati, when we could trust them, it was enough. Nabasa mo sa dyaryo, nakita mo sa TV. Therefore, pwede natin paniwalaan to. Kasi these are what we call trusted sources. Online media has changed that. Yun nga yung tinatawag natin yung fictiveness, the malleability of truth or the relativity of truth. Dito sa age natin, ganun ang nangyayari. So pagka ganun ang nangyayari, the responsibility lies on you, the consumer of the news. Yes, sir.
Hi, ma'am.
Hi po.
Host po ako, pero magtatanong din po ako. I am currently the National President of the Alliance of Legal Management Associations of the Philippines Incorporated po kasi. Kaya I'm very interested to know. Yes po, hopefully I will be also the part of the bar. I am interested in knowing po kung ano po yung status ng enrollment ni Ma'am Mocha sa Arellano Law. Because kasi po may mga contentions like for one,
How is this a matter of national interest or public interest?
I would like just to ask po kasi like there is a requirement of a PhilSat, di po ba? Yung Philippine Law School aptitude test, di ba po? So if she manages to enroll to Arellano Law with the absence of the PhilSat, I think it's an issue
Matter of public interest.
Oh, yes po.
Alright, very good. Well played. She's auditing the class.
Which means po?
Non-credit? You don't need a PhilSat for that. An LSAT or a PhilSat for that.
Could you please shed more light ma'am?
Wala kayong audit classes dito? Non-credit classes? You can audit classes before you enroll. Non-credit, take the subjects, non-credit, then enroll them later for credit?
Okay po. So, basically, her status is parang conditionally enrolled po.
Not even. She's enrolled non-credit.
So, it will be credited when she takes the PhilSat and then enters
No,
or
not even.
applies.
She'll take it again.
Okay. So parang it's her way of preparing herself for law school.
Exactly.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay na? Alam mo, I wouldn't have answered that, but he presented it very well. Nung sinabi niyang matter of public interest, tama siya. Yes, because she's an assistant secretary. Additional?
I think we're done po.
Okay na?
Are there any other questions or clarifications? What? If there are, you can message.
I'm on Facebook. Boy, am I on Facebook. I live on Facebook.
Attorney Trixie is on Facebook. That's Luminous by Attorney Trixie Cruz Angeles. So you can search her on Facebook. We're actually live now.
Yeah.
I shared sa
Say
post.
hi, everybody. Ilan ang viewers natin? Live.
2-9.
2,900 viewers. Live. I-repost ni Mocha to. So thank you very much. You don't have to take what I said as gospel truth. Meron tayong footnotes dun sa ano ko. I can give them to your organizers if you want to look at some of the articles on which we base this talk. Okay? As students, and lahat naman tayo estudyante, including myself, we're supposed to test what our teachers teach us. Okay lang yon sa umpisa. But you have to question. Sa law school, sa UP, we were taught by one of my smartest teachers, never take anything as gospel truth, even if the Supreme Court says it. Sino yung maglalaw dito? Ayan. Even if the Supreme Court says it, it doesn't mean it has to be right or true. That is why you can challenge even established jurisprudence. You can challenge a law. You can question a law. You can question decisions made by your leaders. You can question things that the newspapers tell you. You can question everything. And in these days, you must. You have to. Now, there's a reason why I'm probably the only one you've heard from the government side. Because it's big news for other people to be doing this and to be able to do it, presenting their side. I've presented you one side. You don't have to believe me. Read for yourself. Decide for yourself. In the end, that's what it's going to be all about. Okay? I want to thank you very, very much, guys. You're amazing. Faith in humanity restored. Faith in the youth. Ang tanda-tanda ko na. But you make me believe that things are going to be okay. Thank you. I have to be the one to thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Attorney Trixie. It's an honor for us to be
visited by someone
visited by someone.
from the government.
Yes.
It's Finally nagkaroon
Finally
na tayo
visited
ng
by someone from the
yeah.
government to
Yeah.
explain fake
Yes.
news.
To hear the side
Yes.
from the government.
Well, at least we now hear both sides of the story. So at the end of the day, we have the power to decide, no? So,
Decide for ourselves. Yung lagi nga nire-reiterate ni ma'am, ni attorney na we should read for ourselves. Yeah,
Yes.
that's really an absolute truth. Mas maganda yan. Dapat talaga ganun yung attitude natin. Kasi it starts with us. Yung initiative to combat fake news starts with us talaga.
I will.
so at this point in time, we would like to invite our national chairman, Mr. Armani Miguel Narca, to present the certificate of appreciation. Let me first read the citation. SINAG awards the certificate of appreciation to Attorney Trixie Cruz Angeles for sharing her valuable insights and expertise for our Anti-Fake News Forum given this 24th day of November 2017 at the CM Recto Hall, Polytechnic University of the Philippines. Signed, Mr. Armani Miguel Narca,
National
Chairman
Chairman
of SINAG. Thank you, ma'am. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, Attorney Trixie Cruz Angeles. A round of applause, please.
Thank you for watching, guys.